Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Vinny Vegan. Vinny is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have him on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnsson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, also be sure to check out the Shop tab where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Vinny Vegan. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Vinny DePaul, better known by Vinny Vegan. And I was fortunate enough to meet Vinny at a Veg Fest in Tucson recently, and his work is just so amazing. Vinny has overcome so many obstacles in his life and is now dedicated to creating a positive difference in the world. He created Gangster Vegan, a shirt company that is helping feed inner city kids free organic vegan meals, as well as opened a restaurant called Gangster Vegan Organics. But I'm just excited for Vinny to share his story and everything that he's working on. So Vinny, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And then, before we get going into the work that you're doing, Vinny, let's start with your backstory. First off, where you're from and, what your own health and wellness looked like as a kid, what your kind of like mindset was as a kid, because I know you've gone through a lot, just going through obstacles as you've grown up. So like, where were you at kind of as a kid as far as nutrition and just as far as just everything that you were going through?
Oh, yes. So my name is Vincent DePaul. I go by Vinny Vegan or the Gangster Vegan. I am 38 years old. I was born and raised in Norristown, Pennsylvania. It's a small borough outside of Philadelphia, about 20 miles outside of Philadelphia. And I grew up, it is a suburban, urban area. It is a melting pot, a mixture. You have low class, you have middle class, and on the border edge, there is some elite class around the area. I went to public schooling all my life. So I was around all different types, walks, and genres of life, starting at a very early age since kindergarten. And I grew up like just in a public schooling situation, milking cookies and lunch meats and things like that. And I wouldn't say my living situation, my home environment was the best environment. It wasn't the worst environment. But very early in age, I made some choices to go try some things, and I got really engulfed in a lifestyle that I saw on TV and that I heard through radio. I got really hooked on gangster rap in the late '80s, early '90s, and I created this moniker. I'm Italian, 100% Italian. Gangster, mob flick, gangster stuff, mafia, and then gangster rap came out, and I was like, oh man, I glorified this. This is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. And I was just gravitated to that lifestyle very early in life. Sex, money, drugs, violence, things like that. And I went on to live that lifestyle all the way up till I was 30. When I was 21, I moved to Hollywood, California. And I started making T-shirts. Next thing you know, I was making millions of T-shirts and selling them worldwide. I was dressing rappers for all rap videos, and I was friends with ball players and Snoop Dogg and Hugh Hefner and Stevie Wonder. And I just
That's
lived this
crazy.
crazy lifestyle. Yeah, it was a whirlwind for about 9, 10 years.
How did it grow so quickly? I mean, did it just start off word of mouth? I'm just thinking like, it wasn't, there was no Facebook marketing at that time, so
No, no,
that
no.
was straight like out of your trunk
Yeah.
marketing, right?
Yes, it was all grassroots, word of mouth. I was making these shirts for myself and wearing them to the club every night. And they were hip hop t-shirts, and they were rhinestone embellished hip hop t-shirts, and there was nothing like it, and it looked like there was diamonds and jewelry on the shirt. So when the light hit it, it just looked like there was jewelry on it. And some of my first customers were rappers and ball players, professional basketball, football players. And they were paying anywhere from $300 to $1,000 for one T-shirt. Yeah,
That's
so I
crazy.
sold about 20 T-shirts. I saved up about $20,000, and I turned it into a business. I went from my house to a warehouse to two warehouses, and I didn't look back. By 25, I made my first probably close to $1 million. And this lifestyle that I saw on TV or heard on the radio as a child, I was like, now I'm here. Now I'm Jay-Z, now I'm like, I'm that guy, and I was buying fur coats and $20,000 watches and $100,000 cars, and, having mansion parties and all over the world through a T-shirt. And then I lost all of that in 2010 at the age of 30. And it was not just a great journey the whole way. I was in and out of jail. I was in situations that were like very dark, and I didn't think I would make it up out of. I lost some best friends due to violence and due to cancer and sickness, and it just it's just something that I got so stuck into it, and I didn't think I was going to make it out of it. And in 2010, the economy has shifted. People stopped buying T-shirts. It wasn't a big fad anymore. I had so much overhead, so many cars and apartments and villas, and I lost everything. That was the bottom line of it. And I wasn't trying to. I was trying to hold on to it. My ego didn't want to let go of it. And I let it all go. I had to. I just let it all go. It was like a tsunami wave hit me and sucked everything from me. And I let it all go. And I became broke financially, morally, spiritually, emotionally. I was just down. I was at that call it quits point. And I've hit bumps before. I've been down before, but this was like I couldn't even get $100. I had burnt all my bridges. I done, trampled over everybody to get what Vinny wanted. And, I was the man. Nobody could tell me anything. And then when I hit this rock bottom, it's like nobody was around, and I didn't even have a phone. Like everything was stripped from me. So I just went on this journey. I submitted to a higher calling, and I had a profound awakening. I didn't watch a video. I didn't read a book. Wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna be this guy. I just submitted, and I started walking. I went from 4 cars to no cars. I started walking every day. I started taking the train and buses, and in my just wandering journey in downtown Los Angeles, a complete stranger gave me my first fresh pressed organic juice. It was a carrot orange juice. And I believe that was a pivotal point in my transformation. And I just went down the journey, and I started, like, not consciously, but I guess organically detoxing myself of people, of thoughts, of foods, of, no more Funyuns, no more Snickers, no more hot dogs,
Right.
no more, no more Mr. Chow's, no more 5-star restaurants, no more lobster and steak, So, I guess through that, I just went down. I said, let's take this on instead of laying down and dying, or like, I just figured there's got to be something else. And that was in 2010. And it was about a year, maybe year and a half journey of transformation. And my life just started getting better. And I started finding something different that wasn't in the club every night and wasn't around sex, money, drugs, and just that dark nightlife. And I was now out in the daytime. I was in the light, and somebody introduced me to my first vegan restaurant that I went to. I was at Cafe Gratitude in Los Angeles. And then I started going to Sage Vegan Bistro in Los Angeles as well. And they are all connected. They're all related. They are family. And I believe Cafe Gratitude became a safe haven for me. It became a place where I felt, I don't know, I felt loved. I felt very welcomed. It was an amazing place. At first, I was like, these people are on drugs that work here because they were so, hey, welcome to Cafe Gratitude. You are amazing, energizing, wonderful. It was all peace and love and light. And I'm like, I'm from the Philadelphia area. Like people don't really act like that. And
Right.
I was impressed. It was so loving and light, and I was like, I need to be here every day. And same with Sage Vegan Bistro, and I started going to different vegan restaurants and different juice bars, and I started working again at a couple of vegan restaurants and juice bars for $8 an hour, which was very humbling to go from the money I was making to $8 an hour. But I didn't even want the $8 an hour. I just wanted the experience, and I wanted to be around the food because the food was healing me and it was doing something to my soul. And I was like, I need to be around this. Like this is what I'm into. I need to be around it. And I apprenticed and I worked and I volunteered and worked at a bunch of vegan restaurants and juice bars. And I learned so much from being there in that experience. And it was healing me as well. And I was like, I need to bring this back to my hometown because they need this. And it's the same place that I moved away from that I was like, I'm never going back there.
Right.
And I moved back and I just had a dream and a vision at this point. I still didn't really have any money. And I just started selling juice and smoothies and food out of my best friend's house. And it turned into a restaurant. And now we have 2 locations. We're franchising, opening a 3rd location in Maryland. And I created Gangster Vegan Organics not for monetary gain, but I wanted people to get what I got out of the food. I wanted to create real, integral, healthy, but flavorful food that really meant something that could maybe possibly save somebody's life like it saved my life. And I was and am very committed to improving the quality of life for those that want it. And there's really no access, especially where I grew up. There's no access to it. So that was my journey and that was my mission. And at the time I had bad credit, I had no money, and I'm a convicted felon. So I always tell people, man, like there's nothing that can stop you from doing what you want to do, but you. Because I opened a restaurant with no money, with no credit, and with no with a criminal background. So it's just that when I was in alignment with it, it just all lined up. Strangers came out the woodwork to really support this mission, and it's just something that's near and dear to me. But before the restaurant, I started as a t-shirt because, I had experience in t-shirt, and I said, I just made it a funny t-shirt. I started wearing it around vegan restaurants, and people were like, hey, can I get a t-shirt? Can I get a t-shirt? I was like, your shirt. And I said, well, here we go again with the t-shirt thing. And I said, well, if I'm going to sell t-shirts, I want to go feed kids in the hood because it was fun to be at Cafe Gratitude every day. It was fun to be at all these vegan restaurants and drink $10 juices and $20 salads. But I'm like, who's going to Compton down the street? Who's going to South Central down the street to feed these kids? And then on Thanksgiving, they're doing free meals, but for their customers, but not for, for the privilege. So I was kind of upset, and that's a great thing. But I was like, why aren't you guys going over to the hood? And they were like, well, that's not our mission. Maybe that's your mission. And I said, well, oh, wow, you're right. Maybe it is my mission. So I said, with every shirt we sell, we go feed an inner city child a free hot organic vegan meal. And we started that about 6 years ago. And I've still been doing it to this day. Actually, just went and fed 50 kids in West Philadelphia at a charter school. And we don't just feed them, we actually teach them how to make this meal. It's all organic taco bowls, all organic brown rice, black beans, romaine lettuce, pico de gallo, avocados, and a cashew nacho cheese. So these kids get in groups and they actually prepare and make this meal. And they love it because it's relatable and it's flavorful. So yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know I gave you a lot in one long
No, you're
run-on
good.
sentence.
I mean, no, I mean you're amazing, and the work you're doing is incredible. And I love
Thank you.
that you are doing what you're doing because you can relate to a lot that these kids are going through. And to kind of back it, way up to when you were just talking about you were randomly given that juice, right? Like, what was that immediate response that you had? Like, what was different about that? Like, how did it affect you right away? Was it the energy? Did it just like was just the vibration of the food so high because you've been eating so poorly that it just like hit you like crazy? Like, what was it about that juice that really it felt right, like it propelled you forward?
Yeah, I think I was just at such a low point, like like a death-defying moment, I guess. Like I'm so down, and that juice, I guess when I had no life, it gave me life, and like I don't know, it made me dance, it made me like light up. It was just a trip. It did something to my soul, like, and I think God had to like do all that, run me through the mud and do all that, and really detox everything and everybody around me just
Right.
so I could receive that juice. Because I think if in the previous lifestyle I would have had it, and maybe I've been to some restaurants, some 5-star restaurants where there might have been some fresh squeezed orange juice, but it was overlooked. And I think in that lifestyle, it would have been overlooked if somebody was like, "Hey, drink this carrot juice." Like, ew, carrot juice,
Right.
nasty. Like
Right.
we drinking champagne. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So so I just think, oh man, it spoke to my soul. It was so amazing, life changing.
And were you homeless at that point?
Yes, I was like, sorry, my daughter's crying in the background.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Yes, I like to say like, I was like fly homeless because I was still in my ego and my pride. So like, where I used to have penthouses in downtown LA and stuff, like I would sleep in the gym there, and because the security still knew me. Hey, Vinny, they didn't know my situation, that I was evicted and kicked out. So
Mhm.
they let me in. I sleep in the gym and sleep in the sauna, shower, wake up, and I would stay at a hostel if I could, try to muster up $20 a night. Like, if I had to sleep at a park somewhere, I did sleep at a gym. So it was just it's not like I was sleeping on the concrete, on the sidewalk, because I was still prideful and I had nobody to call on, to be honest with you. So, but yes, at that time I was just wandering downtown LA, and to be honest, I went into a restaurant that I used to go eat at, spend $1,000 on dinner, and drinks, and I never went there in the daytime, so I never even knew that they had breakfast and they had juices and they had fresh fruit and things like that. So
Right.
I put my pride aside because I walk by this place every day, and I used to go in there every day. They used to give me my own like table, like Goodfellas. It was very
Right.
high end, $5 million restaurant, yeah, in downtown LA. And I just something told me to go in, and I went in, and there was a young guy working at the bar, and I said, I don't really have much money. I was down and out, and I bought some fresh fruit, I think, and he was sitting there making juice, and I was like, what is this? What's going on? And he was like, some juice, and he gave me a carrot orange juice, and he said, you come. I told him my whole story, and was like, if you can find a way to buy a juice, come in. I'll double you. I'll give you 2 juices. So I was going in, find a way to get $5-10, and he gave me 2 juices. And now it was the kale, celery, lemon, green juice, and now it's another flavor and another flavor. And I'll never forget. His name was Joe. He's 23 years old, from Nebraska. He just moved to California to be in a band. He wanted to be in a band, and he said the irony of it is, when I was young, all my life, my dad had a juicer, and he put me on the juicing. And it wasn't a juice bar. It wasn't none of that. It was a high end, bougie, upscale, gazillion-dollar restaurant. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, yeah, they weren't health and wellness, but yes, that was a game changer for me.
That's
Game changer.
amazing. That's amazing. And shout out to Joe. Shout out to Joe.
Yeah, shout out to Joe. Joe
Yeah.
from Nebraska, wherever he is. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
No, that's amazing. So, Vinny, once you started to make those changes, you were eating at the vegan restaurants and you were working at the vegan restaurant, like how was that received from the people that you did know, whether it was, the friends that you had left after all of that and the family, like how did people respond well to that, or were they looking at you?
Oh, no.
Crazy?
Oh, they were definitely looking at a couple things. Yeah, well, so I'm Italian, so I came home. My first trip back home after all this, I was like, okay, now I'm a vegan, and a couple years in, and I came home for Thanksgiving, big Italian dinner and all that, and I was late, and my mom was probably telling him, yeah, he's crazy, he lost his mind, he's whatever. So when I get there, they have the whole salad bowl, like the whole dinner salad bowl was like at my plate. So they're like, "This is your plate." It was just like the whole family salad bowl, and they were like, what's wrong? What's wrong with the boy? What's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, there's something wrong. Because we're Italian, we eat veal, we do this, we do that. We're all like, big and eat. What's wrong? Eat, eat, eat. So that was like in the beginning, and all my friends, even my friends and my family, were like, he's always up to something. Like, he's always hustling. He's always got a scheme, or I think they thought it was a scheme. Like, he'll come out of this. He's always into something else.
Right.
But I didn't, and the more I stayed on it, the more it actually radiated and started to rub off. So it's like, okay, year one, he's still on it. Year two, and then I think by like last year or last couple of years, something happened in the universe. Like there's a shift. So people are now opening up and waking up, or they saw a video, or they saw something on TV, or Beyonce's vegan, or Jay. So now it's like, oh, my man vegan, Vinny. So now it's a good conversation piece. Now they're like, oh, let me go stop at the restaurant. So my mom is like 90% vegan, plant-based. Everything in her house is organic. She has changed drastically. She's almost 70 years old, on no medicine, on no nothing. And a lot of my friends too, but a lot of my friends I have lost to cancer already. At 38, I lost two of my best friends to cancer, and one is dying currently of cancer. And so even with this information and with this know-how, it's still hard to like watch that and know that you could help. But it's like, the mentality really, it's got to be a mentality shift. But yeah, everybody was like, he's crazy. I was like Puff Daddy of my, where I grew up, like Puff Daddy of the hood. Like Vinny comes around, we know it's popping. We're going to the club, we're renting Lamborghinis, we're like, at the strip club. Like they always just knew when I come home or wherever I'm at, I come around, it's a so-called good time. Like we're going to go party. We're going to go like, have a blast, and that was the life I was living. So when I lost everything, then I come back around and they just like, oh, he went crazy. Like he's off his rocker. How you go from that to this? Because in their eyes, they're like, he made it. He's from where we're from, and he made it. He's in Hollywood. He's on TV. He's in all these videos. He's doing this, that, the third. So that was making it and successful to them. But when you're like, no, that wasn't it. This is it. Like this is all that matters. They're like, nah, you're crazy.
Right. I think it takes most people, like they have to have all that to realize it's not about all that for most people, So it's yeah. So it's crazy, and you're definitely right that it does take some time for people to realize like you're serious about it. I mean, I've dealt with that too. It took a few years before I think everybody and like family were like, okay, she's sticking with this, which is understandable. They want to see that you're serious, right? Family can be the hardest.
Family is the hard. I mean, my really good friend, he's a vegan food share on Instagram, but he's Filipino. He's from the Philippines, and he's married. And he went home to his family, had family dinner, and he was like, he told his parents, he was like, we have something to tell you. And they're like, oh no, what? And he was like, we're vegan, like, and they snapped out. They like really was like, no, like, and this might sound ignorant, but his dad was like, are you gay? Like, are you homosexual? He was like, I'm here with my wife, who we've been married for 10 years. Like, I just said we don't eat animals anymore. And because in their culture, that's what they do. They eat meat.
It's crazy.
So, or that's how we have it related, because me being Italian and me eating veal are two different things, but somehow we have it combined. Like, you're Italian, you're supposed to eat veal and salami and all this stuff. And I think there's just two different things. And I get the whole culture thing, but I could be Italian and eat salads all day. You know what I'm saying? I'm still Italian at the end of the day. But it's just a lot of labeling and labels and things like that. Even the vegan label is starting to get a little out of hand. So I just say, like, I stopped eating animals, and animal products, and it saved my life. It changed my life, and it's just, it's a beautiful thing. I'm so thankful I made it up out of where I was, and that I can be a catalyst for others who want to go through transformation. But I mean, I was angry and depressed and violent. Violent was probably the number one thing. Short fuse, Joe Pesci from Goodfellas. Like,
yeah.
I'm ready to come at your neck. And now I'm the complete opposite. And not to say that's not still in me. It's still a lot of work to do. But just I've never had this loving, caring, compassionate, understanding side of Vincent ever. Maybe as a little boy, but he got lost. So trying to get back to that, and just be the change I want for my family, for my daughter, and for those that around me that encounter me,
Right. Yeah. And I think people overlook how much your food choices can affect things like mental health and like stress and anxiety and compassion, because we look at it as, people they just want to lose weight, right? Like, what's the quickest way to lose weight? They're not looking at the other stuff, the inner work. And really, when you get rid of all of like the when you get rid of animal products, it's going to make you a more compassionate person, and it's going to make you less stressed because you're taking in less hormones, and the stress that the animal has during that process, like, you take that in too. I mean, that affects their body chemistry, and then you're consuming that. So it's overlooked a lot. And I think it's one of the most important reasons to make that decision. So it's cool hearing it from people like you that's actually like lived it and seen it, and firsthand that is 100% true.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing. And like, whenever, Vinny, you decided to start selling the t-shirts, and like you're making the Gangster Vegan shirts, and each shirt is a meal for an inner city kid. So what was like the first set of shirts you sold, the first set of meals you gave out? Like, how was that experience of just that very first time?
Yes. It was so amazing. I sold 100 shirts, and I was in Hollywood, California still, and I went to Compton Community Center. One of these big t-shirt stores that I used to sell t-shirts to in the past lifestyle. They own like 300 sneaker and hip hop urban apparel stores all across the United States. And the owner, it's called Chic Shoes, and the owner is actually a sheik. And he built this company ground up. He started with one store, and he ended up with 300 stores. Just a really great person in the way he runs his business and things like that. But he had a store in Compton, California, and he bought the whole building. And as part of his give back, he created a community center underneath the store in Compton. And I sold 100 shirts for friends, family, and just in the street. And I went and fed 100 kids in Compton, California. It was amazing. It was so amazing. And these kids had no idea like what these things were. Like, we were introducing them to Brazil nuts and goji berries. We made smoothies. We made salads, and it was just such a great feeling. For me, that feeling used to be like, oh, just made 200 grand. Like, that was a great feeling, and then It's like, and then I'm depressed after that. But this was like, it was a great spike of energy. And I was like, wow, this is something that I really want to do more. And I want to focus on this. And it was just it was great. I had people come and volunteer and help me. The guy who ran the center was amazing. And you know, they're cleaning up that area a little bit, but at that time, 6, 7 years ago, there was still drug dealers and pimps and prostitutes in that actual parking lot. That's where they congregate. So these kids are going through that every day to get to that center. And I actually got to revisit the center a few months ago. So I went back there and fed kids again. It's still there to this day. And we fed 40 kids again. It was just so beautiful to actually go back around there. And yeah, I'm looking to, you know, grow this thing bigger than just selling T-shirts and feeding kids. I think that was just the level to get it to the next level. And I'm looking forward to doing some crowdfunding and fundraising and maybe creating a center for myself for kids to migrate to after school programs, kids on the street that don't have, you know, a good home to go to, or they don't play sports and they don't want to be a rapper. So they can come to the center. They can learn how to make food. They can learn arts and yoga, meditation, and high vibe stuff. Yeah, because like you said, like for me, when I would have thought this stuff's corny or feminine, or, you know, like men don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I transformed and realized that that way of thinking was just a taught way of thinking, and it's not true. It's not true at all. It's backwards. It's backwards.
Yeah, it is backwards, and especially like when you can get to kids that young and make it cool, then that's life changing. Yeah. I mean, have you had you've been doing this for years, so like, have you had any kids that have really stuck around with you, or you've kept in touch with that's really made a difference on, or anything like that at all?
Yes, for sure. There's definitely been, yes, definitely. There's kids that 5 years ago, I went and fed, and then, I resurfaced around them. And it's funny because they're not in the same grade and they're not in the same school, but I end up coming back around to like their different school or their next school. And they're like, Mr. Vinny, you know, that day you came in the classroom, like I haven't eaten meat since. You know, I went home and told my parents I'm not eating, you know, and they're now like 18, 17, 18 years old, and they've been 4 or 5 years vegan and vegetarian. Definitely been a brother-sister couple that are very near and dear to me. These kids are such on a positive ride, and through them just transforming their diet, you know, and you know, in the hood, kids don't really swim. There's not really swimming opportunities, but one of the kids has like, I'm going to go try out for the swim team, you know, and he's like almost an Olympic swimmer in like 2 years. Like, but you won't know that because all he's been conditioned is like basketball, you know, football, rap music or whatever. Like he just wasn't open to different things. And I think, you know, being exposed to that opened him up. You know, there's another young lady I've influenced, you know, she's 18 or 19 now, but when I met her, she was 13, 14. And she's such a powerful person. And now she's doing work in her community as an 18-year-old. You know, she's part of it's called Girls League Justice in Philadelphia. And like, it's all about justice for women and food justice in the community. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing, because nobody ever came to my school and made a smoothie or made a salad or talked like this to me, you know, ever. Because I would have remembered something. You know, I would have remembered a guy with a gray beard and tattoos that's making smoothies, talking about he was hanging out with Puff Daddy and them. So, you know, we had like the Smokey the Bear and like the cop from Dare that said don't do drugs, you know. So
right.
I would have loved, like, who would have known what would have happened if somebody would came in there and had a talk, you know. Because like today we're feeding the kids, you know, they had to take a lunch break while we're making this food and doing all this stuff, and you know, their lunch was a hot dog. It was a hot dog and baked beans, you know. And it's like, and this is a progressive school in the hood, because now they're buying schools in the hood and they're turning them into charter schools, which is great. It's progressive learning. Some of the stuff I saw in there, I'm mind blown what they're teaching these kids. But when it comes to lunch, it's still milk and hot dogs because it's subsidized by the government, and that's where they get their funding. So I would like to also maybe explore opening up and creating new schools that aren't funded by the government, that are peer funded, people, us funded. And it's a new curriculum for these kids, man, because, with that bad food comes bad thoughts, comes violence, and comes, bad choices. And these
100%.
kids are going, yeah, and they're going right home to the hood, and it's still, there's still gang activity. There's still, drugs, guns, violence. And our goal is to like nurture them and plant the seed in them, that they don't go that way.
100%. No, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And I mean, I really do think you should go that route when as soon as you can. I mean, just going after schools that don't require that kind of funding, I think that would be incredible. And no,
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing, Vinny. And I mean, how has all of this affected just raising your own family? I mean, you have a young family now, and you guys are living the RV life right now, which is super
Yeah,
exciting. So, how has it
yeah.
affected how you're raising your kids, your family?
Yeah, I mean, it's I met my wife 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, and she became vegetarian when she was 12, and then when she met me, she went all the way vegan, and just to see her growth in the last 4 years, I mean, you know, she has a beautiful heart, and like to see her be of service as well, where she was like, I don't know my purpose, and not to say this is her purpose, but she gets to be of service of as well, and she gets to also make a difference in these kids' lives as well, and just to like today, that I bring them with me when we go teach these children and feed these children. And
Awesome.
my daughter, she's 1.5, and like she lights up the room, and like she's there, like she gets to be a part of that at 1.5, at one really, and it's just something great to raise her up in, instead of like rap music and anger and violence. For me, I grew up in a violent environment. It was an angry, dark, violent, environment. So it's like if you put a plant in an angry, dark, violent environment, more likely it's gonna die off or it's gonna get sick. So um, I didn't want that for my family, and I believe that's why nothing happened in my 20s as far as having kids or a real relationship, because I was toxic and I wasn't even close to that. So I think now it's just it's fun. It's really fun, and there's so much love and generosity, and I can see that already in my daughter. Like she's just so kind and genuine and giving already. I know it sounds weird for a 1.5 year old, but it's really brought us really close together. And I'm really committed to building with others and being, being a good influence and a good inspiration for others. And also, not perfect. We have a lot of breakdowns, but that's how we deal with it. It's not going into
Yep.
our old ways of being.
Yep. No, definitely. No,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So you guys are traveling right now. I know you are in Florida, which is super exciting that you're going to be here for a little bit, and definitely want to meet up with you again. And actually have a 2-year-old so they can play. It'd be fun.
Yes, that
Yeah.
would be awesome. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
But how long are you in Florida? What's the traveling looking like for you?
We don't know. Well, our goal was like a month or two, but now it might be a little longer. I don't know. I'm really enjoying South Florida. The weather's amazing.
Yeah.
The fruits are amazing. But I also feel that there's a lot of work to be done in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. I'm still just right now taking a time out from things and just getting back to myself and healing myself and my family, and then just letting whatever needs to flow through me. But I'm really enjoying time in Florida right now. I'm staying on a fruit farm, a 5-acre fruit farm. So I'm getting my
Awesome.
hands dirty, put my hands in the soil, and we're picking coconuts, cracking coconuts, things like that. So just right now, I'm kind of a place of just being of service, and then figuring out what the next move is. As far as feeding kids, teaching kids, and just being there, being a mentor, being a father figure or a brother figure for whoever needs it.
No, that's amazing. I love that. And
Mm-hmm.
with I mean, you have so much going on. I know you're talking about you have 2 restaurants now, and obviously you have everything else going on. Like, is there anything happening else in the future that you didn't mention that you just want to put out there and share, or just continue to build out the restaurants, build the business, and just continue to help as many kids as you can?
Yeah, that's pretty much the mission. I built the restaurant for other people to own. So I kind of stepped away from the day-to-day operation of the restaurant. My best friend that I grew up with, he owns both the locations that I opened. He owns them. He's been in restaurant business all his life. He became plant-based about 4 years ago, and this is his dream. His dream he was never going to achieve on his own. He's always been working for somebody else, and he was tired of it. And divinely, this is lined up for him and for us as a collective, because he knew my intention, and he knew I wanted to step away. So he's running the restaurant. We have a couple that I met off Instagram. They're our first licensee. They're going to open up their own in Maryland, and we're looking to open up hundreds of more of these worldwide, just to feed communities, and also be the example of, if you want to open a Gangster Vegan, and if you want to start feeding kids every Monday or every month, some free meals, that is also attached to it if you want. So yeah, just staying on the mission, open up restaurants, feeding kids, nurturing the children, and just being family, and working on myself, because I still have some hardwired stuff from my past that shows up sometimes. And it's like, we got to keep working on ourselves as well, because no one is perfect. And I am striving to be the best version of myself, for my family, for the world, for the community, for those around me. So, because I didn't ask to give up that previous lifestyle. I was kind of cool in that dark lifestyle. So I have to recognize and realize that, God had pulled me up out of that to use me. And when I get in the way, that's when all chaos happens. So, just working on myself and staying out of the way so I can be a conduit, for the mission, just to be of service.
No, that's amazing. And I love all the work you're doing. And like, for the t-shirts, I mean, can people order those online as well?
Oh yeah, so I created a small little movement for the t-shirt. It's called This Shirt Feeds. You can go on thisshirtfeeds.com. And the mission was like, more than a shirt, this shirt feeds. So for every shirt we sell, we feed an inner city child a free hot organic vegan meal. So hats, hoodies, it all goes to feeding kids. Or you can go on gangstervegan.com. You can check out the restaurants. You can check out the apparel on there as well. We have a full menu on there. We have pictures and stuff like that. Also on social media, Vinny Vegan, Gangster Vegan Organics, at This Shirt Feeds. All the same for Facebook as well. And if anybody's out there listening, wants to get in touch with me, you can email me at vinnyvegan@gmail.com. And that's pretty much it.
Perfect. No, I'll put all of those links in the show notes. That way people can go check it out. And yeah, guys, definitely go support what Vinny's doing. Buy a shirt. I picked one up in Tucson, so I'm super excited to get to rep that now. So they're really amazing and awesome. So Vinny, just closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's been your biggest takeaway through this whole journey so far, but if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
I probably have 1,000. I'll just pick the one that came right off the top, because this was my last statement to these kids today, because out of 50 kids, there was probably a handful that didn't try the food. And what I told them was, it was basically, what did I say? The shot that you miss is the shot that you don't take. So it's like, I use that basketball analogy, like, more shots the more you shoot, the better you're going to actually hit one. But if you don't shoot it, then you won't know. So it's basically telling them to be open. The greatest lesson I could tell you and leave you with right now is to be open. Because if you ill, nah, I'm cool, that's corny, don't try it, right? You're gonna keep doing that over and over again. You're gonna miss so many opportunities that were right there in front of your face because you weren't open. And for me, I wasn't open. And it's like once I started to be open to things, oh, it just led me down so many different avenues and journeys. So I would say just be open. Be open to try things. Be open to experience new things. Get outside of your box. Don't be in that comfort box. It's okay to get out and try different things. So that's my little gem for this podcast and for anybody that's out there listening.
No, that's perfect, Vinny. I love it. And just Vinny, just thank you so much for taking time to come on. What you're doing is amazing, and obviously any way that I can help, just always let me know, and excited to meet up again. And just thank you so much for taking time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing. I really appreciate you. I'm so glad we met and connected, and I am grateful for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Vinny. He's doing so much positive work, so be sure to give him a follow on social media to keep up with everything that he's been working on. You can find his social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drcaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Vinny's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Vinny, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.